Good. Well, I'm very pleased this morning before he heads off to Israel on a big world trip to be chatting to this man sitting in front of me. And Robert, tell us who you are and a bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Robert Creed, and I suppose I'm in University College Cork, and I'm studying a master's degree in the performance of music, which I very much enjoy. And I suppose the Lord's been very kind of close to me all of my life, and He's kind of the evidence of His grace and His mercy has been kind of seen from the beginning. I was born an hour into the 25th week of gestation in 1991, and a lot of babies that are born at that stage are they don't survive, or if they do survive, they might have some sort of deficit. But thankfully, I overcame the odds. I had a mom and a dad and brothers who cared about me and who prayed strongly for me, for my survival. And despite many medical obstacles, I managed to overcome them all. Except there was one slight side effect, because I was over-oxygenated when I was born, which is probably not the worst complaint, considering. Yeah. And it actually detached my retina in my right eye, so I lost my sight in my right eye, even though I was born with full vision. But when I lost the sight in my right eye, that was okay, because I was kind of used to it. It was normal for me not to be able to see on my right side, you know. And I went through play school, learning all these wonderful skills like Braille and being trained. And I went through primary school, and I went to a visually impaired primary school in Drumcondra in Dublin, and I boarded there. And in that place, I learned so many things. I learned about all the academic subjects, swimming, lots of physical activity like horse riding or athletics, and I was always encouraged to be confident and take great courage in the abilities that I have by the people there, and that was so important to me.
But was that still difficult for you? Through childhood, was it something that you were constantly having to process, or did you just assume like it's normal to you, it's normality, and everything goes ahead?
I'd say it's the latter statement. Like I just lived life, and when I was a kid, I just enjoyed living life. And, like, we had such a wonderful time in that school. Like at one stage when I was in primary school, I was picked to see the President of Ireland.
Oh, marvellous.
Yeah, it was like really special.
And who was it at that time?
It was Mary McAleese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Mary McAleese, and I met her, and I decided at that age to tell her that I'd just been to the barber's and got my hair done just for her, so I did, which had her in hysterics, literally, do you know? Yeah, so I went through that, and I got more and more independent, but my confidence was dealt a blow when I got through to secondary school. In the third year of my secondary school education, I lost my sight in my left eye. So what happened was, I literally was at home, I ran up the stairs, I got to my mom's bedroom, I turned around, and then I had no sight. It was that quick. It was very sudden. And we found out that my retina had detached in my left eye. My doctor, I mean, you couldn't write this in a soap opera if you tried. My doctor had a broken foot, so he actually couldn't even do the major operation on me. I had to meet someone who I'd never met before and get operated on. And thanks be to God, they managed to reattach my retina again and give me back my eyesight. But I had to lie for 4 weeks on a hospital bed that was too small for me, on my face, only allowed to turn once every hour for 5 minutes in a heat wave next to the window.
Oh.
It was very unpleasant, do you know?
And what age were you at this stage?
I think I was around 16 years old, or maybe like late 15, early 16, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
yeah.
around then. And the reason why I had to lie on my face was because the doctors put oil into the back of my eye to hold down my retina, and I had to kind of try to stop it from going to the front of my eye, because that would defeat the purpose, you know? So I got through that really well, and I started studying for my junior cert, quite a challenging exam. But just before my junior cert, there was a problem, because I started losing some of my vision throughout that year, because what was happening, unfortunately, was the oil was going to the front of the eye, and you know, you can't see through oil, so it was blocking my sight. So eventually, after they did lots of procedures to push it back to the back of my eye again, they said, okay, we're going to take the oil out now, you know. We hope that everything will be fine. There is a slight risk that things mightn't be fine, but we're going to have to do it because it's not very productive to have it in your eye. And I said, okay. So they took the oil out, and when they took the oil out, I noticed my vision went a bit funny. And I remember going down the stairs at home and looking at my mom and telling her that, Mom, I think my vision's gone funny, and she looked at my eye, and she saw that my left eye had actually shrunk.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went into my doctor, and he said that my eye had actually collapsed in itself. Pressure had dropped. So if you can imagine putting a pin in a balloon when it deflates, it's literally like that. And I was also told that there was no way I was going to get my vision back from a medical point of view. And I was told that 2 weeks before my junior cert, and on the day that I had an exam in traditional Irish music, which is the type of music that I've liked playing, along with worship music. I learnt the accordion in primary school, and at this stage I started my learning of the tin whistle and low whistle. But I remember on the day of the exam I was shaking, I was crying and everything, but my mom said, Robert, do you just want to go somewhere like Sligo or any place in the country just to stay in a hotel for the night? And I just said, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to do this exam. And I prayed about it. And in the exam, I got full marks. Like, I got the highest
incredible.
mark you could get. Yeah. And every exam in Irish music that I did after that date, I ended up getting full marks in. So it was kind of like a comfort. And it was reminding me that even though this is very traumatic, I still have the Lord, of course, but I also have my love for music that can kind of carry me through. I actually found that when I started with the music, it kind of improved after I lost my vision, because I was using my ears so much more that my ability to pick up tunes just got like way better. So it did. So that was a positive outcome.
And you keep mentioning that, I mean, you prayed about something, or that you were still thankful to the Lord for things. Did the question of such suffering and such difficulty in life never challenge that for you in terms of your belief in God and a good God, and him being a good father to his children?
Yes.
How did that impact you?
Well, I was brought up in a Christian home, so the Christian faith was always a part of my life. It's kind of almost a part of who I am. But I do remember that when, after one of my operations, I lay on the bed and I said, Dear Lord, you have a wonderful plan for my life, and you love me, and you want me to have a great life, and you want me to do great things for you, and I know I'm going to have a wonderful life, but I can't see, so how can I have a fulfilling life if I can't see anything? Do you know? That was the bit that I questioned. I basically asked the Lord, is this just a waste of time? I mean, do you know, some of the people that I had in my school would have certain like mental difficulties, so they would have a very difficult time. So I was just concerned about what was going to happen to me next. There was so much unknown about it.
Yeah.
But I had to kind of swallow that and move through it as best I can and keep praying. But what really helped was after secondary school, I went to college here in UCC, and I joined the Christian Union. And in the Christian Union, I made the most wonderful friends who had the faith, who would sit down and listen to me talking about my sight loss. And sometimes they mightn't be able to say anything, but just by them listening and God being between us, it would give me a type of peace that would help me get through it, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, cool.
But eventually, an amazing thing happened when I think I was in second year, or it could have been third year. Might have been third year of my degree. So I was studying my arts and music degree. I was doing music and psychology in UCC. And I would have this kind of thing where I had counselling for my sight loss, and that was wonderful. But it didn't work completely because I would have these weeks where I would just be sad beyond consoling. And the problem was that people who weren't Christians were telling me there's no way I'm getting my vision back ever again, and I should just accept what's happened. And I couldn't accept what's happened, so I couldn't, because I didn't believe that, you know, this would happen to me. Problem was that I didn't know how to deal with not having sight at the moment, like with the right now.
Yep.
So I actually eventually found an answer to that, and it was done through my favourite, one of my favourite ways of kind of God answering my questions. It was done through a song in music. The song was, if you remember, I said to the Lord when I was on a hospital bed, is this just a waste of time? The name of the song was Nothing Is Wasted. So that's an answer, right, to me. Well, to me it seems like it anyway. And it was by the singer Jason Gray, who's my favourite singer. He inspired me to start singing, and this song, it gave me the answer that no Christian could give me and no non-Christian could give me. And that is that basically, even though terrible things can happen that can hurt us and can wound us, that God can enter into that place and His glory can shine through it. And through the terrible things that we've gone through, we become almost like ministers for people who've also gone through that thing. So like, I'd be so well equipped to talk to somebody about sight loss, and I've done that. I've talked to, you know, Christians and non-Christians about it, and when I explain to them all about this song, they break into tears because they can relate to it too, and there's something healing in that. But also, I think it relates to like non-Christians as well, because the general idea of letting God shine through your life, even when you think it's completely falling apart, is a very important thing to know. And, it was special. And through that song, one of the things that I realized was that I have another thing that helps me with my sight loss. By the way, after I heard that song and after I got that revelation, I haven't been upset about my sight loss since, in the same way that I was before.
Oh, marvellous. It's just given you a peace.
It's the Lord transformed me because He gave me an answer, do you know, that I really needed.
Yeah.
But another thing that's really helped me with going through sight loss, I said music, but also it's the fact that I have this wonderful thing called synesthesia.
Okay, and what's that?
Synesthesia is when my understanding of it is that it's when two senses get sort of crossed in the brain. So it can be any combination of senses, but the one that's I think is most common, and the one that I have, is visual and audible. So what happens is an audible stimulus goes in and gets interpreted audibly as it would with anyone else, but because my visual part of my brain is slightly mixed up with that, it's also interpreted visually. So it means that when you talk to me, or when I hear music, I see it in full colour.
Oh, incredible. Oh, okay. And so that must make, I'm writing a theology of travel at the minute.
Oh, wow.
And many students will travel the world to see sights and things like that. Does that mean that you look out for experiences in life that will give you that colour experience through sound and things like that? Or how do you go about? Do you deliberately seek those out?
I get you. Yeah, I get you. I can see what you're saying. You see, I've always had synesthesia since when I could see I had it, when I couldn't see I had it. I remember I went into a trad ensemble, and I came out afterwards and I said to some people that, oh, the colours were so amazing. There was reds and blues and greens, and they were wondering, they were like, Robert, this doesn't usually happen to people, do you know? So I was like, oh, okay, and I was kind of shocked. So I never deliberately looked for kind of experiences that give me that colour sense. Like, I never said, okay, I want to see colours, so I'm going to do musical things. But I've always loved music, and that's always been wrapped in it. So I think unconsciously I've picked lots of musical things. So like, I study music, I play Irish music on button accordion, tin whistle and low whistle, and I'm singing in 2 choirs as well, which I started. And it's all just an amazing experience. Like, if you can imagine seeing a 200-person choir in full colour, filling every ounce of visual space. As a accordion player, Brendan Begley, or Brandon Begley, once said to me, I'm never blind when I'm playing music.
Oh wow, yeah, incredible. And so one brief question: how does that actually work? So when you hear a choir, or when you hear a trad band play, how, like, what do you see? Just briefly.
Okay, yeah, perfect. So with me, synesthesia works differently for every person, but for me, a low sound will have a dark colour, and a bright sound will have, a high sound will have a bright colour. And each different instrument, including the voice, has a different colour. So it goes by what instrument. So accordion is a black, white and red square that moves in the direction of the music that I'm playing or listening to. A whistle is golden. My favourite instruments are wind instruments, because when you take a breath, the image completely disappears and comes back again. So when you put a few of them together, you see all of these random flashing lights happening. And like in a choir, for example, a bass would be black, a alto grey, a tenor would be a light grey, and a soprano would be a really a high-pitched kind of bright white colour. So all of those colours come together and mingle. And I've also discovered that in my synesthesia, I'm able to also use my imagination. So once I was learning about a breathing technique for singing, and it was to do it, you pretend like you're kind of sniffing a rose. So take a breath in and like you're sniffing a rose, and it helps you breathe through your diaphragm. And I applied it to my whistle playing once. And what I did was, I put the whistle to my mouth and I saw it, and I pictured a purple rose at the end of the tin whistle, and I was able to hold that rose in my mind along with the image of the tin whistle while I was playing, and literally sniff the rose and see the purple of the rose coming in to me as well. So it can get very special, it can get very detailed, and it's amazing.
Yeah, super. Well, two quick questions before we must let you go.
Yes.
You're about to, if you don't mind me asking, you're about to head to Israel.
I am.
And as I said, we're considering travel and how people travel. How does travel differ for you as someone who's visually impaired?
Yes, that's a great question. It differs for me sometimes in a very positive way, because if you go into an airport and you just say, like, maybe bang into one or two things, they kind of see you and they see the cane, and they go, oh, hello, would you like to move to the front of the queue? You know? It's absolutely wonderful. So you see, when I was young, I made up this thing where I like to think that I'm a visually impaired person rather than a blind person, because I'm not fully blind. I can see a tiny, tiny speck of light, and I can sometimes see the colour of the sky through a pinhole of vision, so I count that as vision.
Yeah.
I call myself a visually impaired person, but another word for that I like to think of is a very important person, VIP. You know?
Yeah.
So it differs in that way. It's really easier, but in some way it's kind of got a little bit harder, because I can't look out the window anymore. I can't look out the window of a plane or a boat, and I can't see anything, so I had to deal with that. So instead, I have to enjoy the sound and the feeling, and when the plane takes off and goes into the air. It's nearly like you're on a ride in an amusement park. I think it's an amazing thing, you know. I absolutely love travelling. I'm originally from Leixlip in County Kildare, and I actually travel up and down to Cork every week. So Ian Road Éireann kind of know me by name, the people on the train and stuff, you know. So I'm never bored when I'm travelling. I love travelling. I'm really looking forward to this trip, and I hope that I'll be continuing to travel to lots of places in the future.
Yeah, super. And final question, slightly disconnected from that. I could also imagine that we're a culture, particularly in the academic world, that lots of reading goes on, and lots of, particularly in even Christian circles, lots of people would say that there's a certain way of doing Bible study, and people love to read it in front of their eyes and then say, well, what does verse 4 say and what does verse 6 say? How have you found it helpful to, do you just read in Braille, or how have you found Bible studies and discussions and things like that helpful for other people who are visually impaired that other Christian unions could consider doing?
Oh, very good question. I completely... This is a problem that I've kind of been facing all throughout college with Bible studies, because what happens is I'm sitting in a Bible group with no Bible, and I don't have a Bible in front of me reading, because it would probably be an audible one, and I'd be kind of distracted from the other people reading as well. It would be kind of difficult. And so I just have to listen very carefully, but what would sometimes happen is they'd ask you questions, and you know, I can't memorize the whole passage. You know?
I don't think any of us could.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's tricky.
Yeah.
But what they have done for me in the Christian Union is my relay worker, Heather, her name was, she would come over to my house and she would take me and another person who can't see, and she'd do a Bible study with us, and like she'd ask us kind of questions, but in the questions there'd be something alluding to what I've just read. So when I'd hear the question, I'd remember from the question what I've just read. So it kind of jogs my memory like that, do you know? And
marvelous.
I think for visually impaired people it's easier if you do it in smaller groups, because you know you can get a bit more help in going through it and stuff like that. But apart from that, I actually have some very interesting ways of reading the Bible. So I have my computer, which has JAWS, which is a software that talks on it. And I can just go into Google and look up a Bible thing, and I can just read through it like that. Or a speaker came over to Ireland. I've seen him a few years. He is one of the nicest people I've ever met. His name is Canon Andrew White, and he's known as the Bishop of Baghdad.
Yes, yeah.
You've heard of him, have you?
Yes, I have indeed.
And he's a lovely, lovely guy. He used to be an anaesthetist before he went out to do all those missions. And he just talks so softly that he makes you really relaxed when you're listening. It's kind of funny, you know.
Well, they do say anaesthetists send people to sleep.
Well, they have to, you know. It's sort of, yeah, totally mandatory, like, you know. So, but he was talking, and he said something wonderful. He said, "Is there any visually impaired or blind people in the room?" And I put my hand up. And he brought a gift for free for those who are blind and visually impaired. And it was a solar-powered talking Bible.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's a little device that you put in the sun, and it gets powered by the sun, and at the push of a button you can hear a part of the Bible read out to you in English. He also has an Arabic translation for those in the Middle East as well.
Incredible. Does he realise, though, that the Middle East may be one thing for solar power, but our own fair city might be a different thing?
Very, very, very true, you know. And he does, because it even works during the winter, because it doesn't need a lot of sunlight, it just needs a little bit, so...
okay, grand.
Yeah, it's great.
Brilliant. Well, this has been an absolute delight to hear some of your story, and we must get you to your bus, to your plane to Israel, and let you get off on your travels. But any final comments before we go?
Yeah, perfect. just a huge thank you to you, Peter, for coming over and talking to me today. And I'd just like to say like a little prayer, if that was okay.
Yes, certainly. Go for it.
Thank you. Dear Lord, thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for all the things that you helped me say today. And I pray that it would be a blessing for those listening to you, and that you would touch people's hearts in this nation and move them to move for you. And that those who are listening would hear your voice and read your word, and just be a light for a very dark world that sorely needs believers to take their place in life. Thank you, Lord, for the opportunity. Thank you for that. May your glory be shown. And we pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.